I'm going to start again by saying the same thing. We're spiritual beings. Spiritual beings in a physical body. Our thinking, our thoughts create this reality. And we are all connected. Now, I wanted to put that a different way, but essentially we're spiritual beings, okay? And look, the title of the video was the Archon Elimination of Human Earth. And that's a very strong title, and I'm picking strong titles because hopefully maybe that gets more people to watch. I'll admit that, okay? And I don't want anyone to be upset by the titles because there is speculation based on the premise that we're spiritual beings, okay? If you don't hold to that view at all, if you have gone in another direction or you are not a spiritual being, then the title won't mean anything. It won't have any significance, and it certainly won't upset you, okay? It has to come from that idea that we are a spiritual being. Okay, so everything I say will come from that premise. It's a bit like, and it's not a religious premise either, I would like to say, even though, hope I'm all right here, even though some people might take some of the stuff I say that way. It's not a religious thing. It's more, to me, it's more like a fact, okay? It's what we just are, but we don't see ourselves that way. As I've said before, I think in a video, and there again, I'm sorry if I repeat myself in the videos because I can't remember everything I say in previous ones, and I'm assuming that each time I make a video that I'm talking to maybe somebody different, but of course there would be some people, because I have had a few subscribers, which I wasn't expecting. I just assumed each time that I would probably be trying to get one person out there, a different person, because that was how I saw it, but maybe that's not how the internet works. But that's okay too, because I do try, when I usually get some sort of inspiration to make the video, even though by the time I get round to making it, like I thought of it hours and hours and hours ago, and I had every thought's come to me. But when I come to make the video, I get all muddled up because I've already done it in my head, but I haven't written it down or did it in a thing, recorded it. So I get it all very clear, all the information and all the whole ideas, the concept, and it's very hard then to put it into the video after I've already done it. It's like you get the information, it comes to you, you might be even laying in bed or something, and you get the whole thing and you'll lay there for hours with all the thoughts coming and all the stuff, the information that you've combined from other people too. But essentially, I get it from what I consider certain basic things, basic truths, and what I know to be true myself, facts, what you would consider facts, proper information, not speculation even. But from that, I will take from other people the speculation if those pieces fit the puzzle, and they have to fit perfectly. I'm trying to fit them perfectly. I don't want, and that's why I'm also vague, by the way, because I don't proclaim I'm going to tell you this now, anyone who's listening, I don't proclaim to have all the details. I don't. I'm a dummy, and I'm like, like those books, Art for Dummies, Science for Dummies, although I would add that all of that is probably fake because I think we now live in a fake world. But I'm coming from my own standpoint that I'm a simple person. I'm just learning. I have only received this information very recently after a lifetime of being asleep and not knowing anything. So I don't have a history. When I talk about even using the word the Archons, I don't have, like some people have, incredible history of all the ancient stuff, ancient aliens, shall we say, all these sorts of things. I don't have that. I have limited. But at this stage, I'm able to piece the basics together and know that it's right. So, but if you're expecting a lot of intricate details, you probably won't get them because I don't have them. I haven't studied this. I'm not a person that's done my whole life. I wish I had, because then I would be able to piece it together so much better and put it to you in a way where it appears to be more factual, because people these days want facts. They don't want the airy-fairy stuff, even though, in my view now, this whole world is hocus pocus. It's all airy-fairy. It's all not what we think. It's total, it is totally spiritual, even though I have never been a spiritual person. But that's what I think we all are. This is the deception. We are spiritual beings, but we're placed in a physical reality that then totally makes us physical. And so we go right off track. And so we don't know what we're meant to be capable of. We don't know what we were meant to be and what we're meant to do in this world. Even I don't know, after a lifetime, say, I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to be here, because now that I see the fake world, I'm like, hey, I could not possibly have agreed to come into this world. And yet information tells me that you have to agree to everything. You have to be shown everything. This is what I'm now learning from what I see even around, because I wouldn't even have this information if it was not allowed for me to receive it. Because if I watch a movie, for instance, and that movie, I look at it and I know it's true, even though it's presented as fantasy, that's because that movie has to be shown to me and everyone else. The truth has to be shown. And that's because we're spiritual beings in really originally a spiritual domain, but we now see it as totally physical, so we don't get any of it. We don't see, the truth is presented to us, but we don't see it as truth. Everything is in reverse in this world. It's a total reverse world. That's how the entities that control it and that operate it work. Everything in reverse. That's even their whole philosophy, their whole concept of everything. And that is to, I think, confuse and to make this video game fake world more of a game, because human beings are not silly. Even though I've said, I'm a dummy presenting things as a dummy, we're really not silly at all. And that's why we have to be confused so much and have so much the truth presented to us, but always put in a way where we take it the wrong way or don't see it as truth, because that has to be done that way. Otherwise we would just get it and pretty much wake up to the whole game, shall we say, and then we probably would not want to play, or at least some of us wouldn't want to play. I know I don't like playing. I'm not a very sporty person, never have been, and I certainly don't. I have no desire to win. I only have the desire to get out. But I've gone off track again. But I will say this, that it seems crazy to me that I would have agreed to come into this situation, this fake world with everything set up and everything a game. Now, some people like playing games, as I say, I don't. I prefer everything to be upfront. I've always, I've made a lot of mistakes in my own life and, have played the game unintentionally most of my life because you get tricked by the game. You get pulled into the conflicts and you're all. I mean, most of my life, I think you're always trying to fight to be yourself and to be free, and everything always is set up to stop that because some people, if they do become free, and like I say, because we are all connected, even though we are now disconnected because technology has taken over and that interferes with the connection. Technology is a static, almost, I don't understand it right, but it's like electricity. It goes through the air and it's static, whereas in reality our thoughts should be going through the air to one another naturally and naturally and fluently, but that is prevented by the technology which we have invited into our life and into our world. We have allowed it and we've invited it in and we have incorporated it into us, and we have stopped our natural connection because of all this, I believe, because that connection definitely is not going, whereas we see plenty of the mind control artificial technology going on, where we're downloaded with thinking, not our own thoughts, we're downloaded with information and we incorporate that into our mind and we believe that is us. But it is merely a downloading, I think, whereas originally, and as if we are authentic human beings, in our natural state, we create our own thinking. That in turn will create our reality, and all connected, we will create something connected to the earth too, because that is all part of it. We're connected to the earth and every living thing, but we are we are perhaps a slightly more, I don't like to say this because I'm going to get back to that later, that idea that we are supposed to serve the life forms that are on the earth and serve the earth because it is one with us and we are one with it, even though we don't know. That's our natural connection. But now we are connected technologically only. We've lost our connection with our true connections and we're technologically connected by this fake anti-human technology that goes through the air because it stops us from connecting naturally with ourselves. So it's anti-human in that respect. But some people prefer it. They use it. Everyone's incorporated it. I've got to try to keep on track here because this is very confusing to me. And I'm sorry that I get it straight when I'm not making a video, and when I make a video it all goes haywire because it's nerve-wracking doing it when you know someone might be listening and when you're trying to get it straight. Whereas when you just, that's right, if you're just naturally thinking to yourself, everything becomes clear. And especially like today, I was thinking very clear, despite the fact that the Archon matrix was literally bombarding me from the minute I started thinking right through, and does that 24/7 anyway, because particularly if you're living in the city, it is unnatural and you are bombarded by continual noise, continual distractions to stop you from thinking and getting to your own natural frequency, to where you also can then try to override And this is what I try to do, but I don't think it's possible because the technology is too advanced, too strong now, and it's everywhere. But if you know, we should be able to just override that. If maybe if we all combined and turned off some of the technology, maybe that is possible. I don't know. It's speculation because it's not happening. I know it's meant to be like that, but it's not a reality anymore, and hasn't been for a long time. But with the advancement of see, in the past, what happened was, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, in the past, the Archon matrix controlled and operated and directed us by different means. We were more, we were not controlled 100% directly like we are now. We were more controlled by circumstances, set up, natural circumstances, set up, but still natural. Now we are just downloaded completely. My very thoughts this minute pretty much go to a supercomputer. So the supercomputer then, because the internet is really a supercomputer, but it is connected to even more computers. But we don't see those because this is the mastermind Archon matrix, gods that rule and that control the matrix, and they have this technology. They are not spiritual, they are technological. I said before, they threw their spirituality away, I believe, if we take it from a religious or a biblical sense, because this is the strange thing. I'm not coming from religious standpoints, but I can't help but throw it in because it has great significance, because we are spiritual beings, but that has nothing to do with religion. We watch religious things and go to church and all these things because we think that is spiritual and we want to be spiritual, but it actually is only part of the Archon matrix, because everything in this physical fake reality is the Archon matrix now. We do not control it at all as human beings. Our spirits are taken over by the physical matrix now, 100%, and have been for a long, long time. But now with the advent in technology, it's like a lockdown, you could say. It's like total control. It's like total foreclosure. Like the human spirit is literally being closed down, if you want to look at it that way. And this is a choice too, don't forget. Human beings are choosing it. We're all choosing it. I suppose what I'm saying most of the time is, if we're spiritual beings and then we're choosing to be technical, it's a choice. But it seems, and I can understand why we are too, because we seem very limited as spiritual human beings, because we are not at full potential as spiritual human beings. And once you get really low at that spiritual level, in other words, once you can no longer access your higher abilities and your higher knowledge and look, just to know everything, because the spiritual being, in my belief, is that you are supposed to just automatically know everything and be able to do access everything. You don't need to read a book or to go to the internet or to go to a library. We were the living library. We were meant to know everything and expand and learn. Now, and develop our skills, develop all our abilities, everything activated, things that we probably couldn't dream of, I believe. But instead, we are at such a low level that we want to go with technology, because, and also if we close down the idea that we're spiritual beings and close down the feelings and the emotion that is a big component, as I said in the previous video. In order to create the reality, there has to be the thinking, the thought of what you visualize, or what, even just what you're thinking. But there has to be emotion and feeling behind it in order for it to come into a physical being, into a physical reality. So as we are eliminating our emotions and our feelings in favour of intellect and technology and downloading fake information, false knowledge, creating even more of a false, fake reality for ourselves, we then start to desire that technology because we see ourselves as very limited then, you see, because we've allowed ourselves and not expanded the spiritual level to where we would see ourselves as brilliant, superior beings that should rule the universe, almost, you could say, and maybe should even walk away from this fake matrix reality, Archon reality, that is not ours and never can be unless we are at our highest spiritual level, or at least higher than what we are, to where we can balance it out to where this world is halfway real. At the moment, we are very much into the physical, and we think the physical is real. But this so-called physical real reality that we live in is the complete opposite to that. It is fake in every way. It's like a stage being set up with everything fake, and like I say, my thoughts go to the supercomputer right now. Everything I'm thinking all the time. This video, I'm making a video here expressing my thoughts, and it's a waste of time in a way. I only do it to reach, hopefully, one other spiritual human being that still wants to remain a spiritual human being, or expand that and hopefully escape and leave the matrix, because it may not be possible to change the matrix anymore. I don't know. It is possible, but it seems very unlikely, because if the vast majority go to the technology because they don't believe in themselves being spiritual, or that there's any potential to grow and expand as a spiritual being, and that's understandable because the matrix has shut all that down. The matrix makes you feel that you are a very limited little physical being with no possible abilities apart from using technology to do everything. That's what we have been conditioned and brainwashed, really, in a way, to believe. We don't believe in nature anymore. We don't believe that if we go and sit in nature, with the exclusion of technology, of course, which is impossible anyway, as I say, in this present world, we have made our world, our earth, our natural earth. This is why I think it's kind of strange that so many people are wanting to save this earth. How can they save it when they've made it into a technical world? It's a contradiction, everything that goes on. It's a reverse world, as I say. Everything is a contradiction. You have to think about that. Like, how can it be a natural world if we cover it in technology? The two are not compatible. Human beings are not even compatible with it. It's making an alien world out of a natural world. But that's a choice, as I say. But don't then start talking about nature, because nature does not want technology, any of it. Nature cannot tolerate it, just as humans can't really tolerate it, but they don't know that. They don't know that it's destructive to their expansion of their abilities. They believe that it is an extension of their abilities. This is what they are being downloaded with, and they're not stopping to go and smell the roses, as shall we say, to know any different. You know, so, you know, so they'll never know the potential that lies in the other direction. Now, this is strong stuff, but anyway, I'll have to try to get back on track again, okay? Oh, okay. Now, the title of the video was The Elimination of the Human Earth. Now, there's many ways that this can happen and is happening in a way. But like I say, it's also a choice. There's always the choice. Just like my life, I've made all the wrong choices, as I've said before. Now, you have to be given the choice, because we wouldn't be shown the truth and given the choice if we weren't spiritual beings. So that just reaffirms it for me, because if you want to have someone or something serve you, you're not going to show them a way out of that. But because this really, at some level, is our domain, or we have the right, because we are advanced beings in some way, so that otherwise the truth would not be shown to us. You know, if you're trying to trick someone or get them to play in a game that they don't want to play in, just like I am here now playing in a game that I do not wish to be in, and yet I must have agreed to it because I'm here playing it. I'm stuck in it. So that means that I must have been shown the game in a way, but it must have been shown to me in a way that I agreed to play in it. I was seduced to play in it. I thought that the game would be easy, and instead it is very difficult. I thought that I could play the game and win, and instead it was a losing battle before I even got started in the game. And because you don't know that you are playing in the game, because you agree to play in the game, but then in order to make the game real, that knowledge that you're playing in a game is taken from you. From birth, we do not come into this world knowing that we are spiritual beings and that we are meant to develop naturally. Instead, we are indoctrinated into systems of education and society type things. These are all like the systems of the Matrix. They're the Matrix. And that the Matrix systems have changed down through the centuries too. But essentially, you get indoctrinated into that physical Matrix system as opposed to being allowed to develop naturally on your own. But this is just, this is the opposite view. This is like saying, as a spiritual being, as I've said before, any information that is downloaded, whether it be through technology or even through systems that are part of the Matrix, that is not going to tell you to be a spiritual being and to try to be natural and access your higher realms mentally and then even physically. That's not going to happen, and it won't be possible because you will be indoctrinated into the physical world, which is the opposite. You know, we are in the physical world, but we're not meant to think about that. We're meant to, it's meant to, how should I say, it's really meant to kind of, well, we're meant to create it directly. Each individual, even the individual, is totally suppressed in this Matrix fake world. Even though we see ourselves as individuals, in reality, we're just downloaded individual. I'm going to get onto that. If I can keep my thoughts straight, because I'm in the matrix too. I can't think straight because I'm downloaded and I'm distracted by the physical world all the time. This is deliberate. This is part of the matrix. To keep you in the physical, to not ever realize that you're meant to expand spiritually. And the technology drags you even more into it. The television alone is like a magnet. It's drew me to it most of my life. And it sucks you in. And when you're watching it, you're deceived too, because you think that the movies, the fantasy things, are fake and not reality. And then when you're watching a documentary or various other things, even spirituality is cornered on the TV. You know, you will watch religious things thinking that it's spiritual. And you can't stop and stand back. You can't stand back and see even that spirituality being used against you. It's like you'll think that you're being spiritually enlightened sometimes by watching some things that you think are spiritual, even on the television and things like that, and the computer, etc. And instead, you're not stepping back far enough to see that even that is being used against you and exploited in this fake world. Even when you're trying to be spiritual, you're latching onto what you think are good people, good messages, but you're not stepping far enough back sometimes to see that it's all part of the fake matrix, which is very hard to accept and very hard to see. I did not see it for most of my life. Now I see it because I've seen some of the truth and now I look for it. And also you do have to step right back. You can't be sucked in. You have to, it's very hard. Sometimes the messages alone are very seductive. You know, just like I could be seductive now, I'm probably not, but you know, the messengers alone get you in, because the supercomputer knows every single thing that humans think and feel and need and want secretly. You give it to them. You give it to them every day on your device. They know your wants and needs. They know your deepest feelings and pain, etc. All these things. And then they use that and put it onto the television to seduce, shall we say. And the seduction comes in forms that you wouldn't expect. Like I say, for me now, I look and I say, the movies that I thought were fantasy, they show more truth than the true stuff. The stuff where I would have in the past lapped it up and thought, oh, that's so true, that's so real, that's so good, that's so me. Of course it's you, because they know you, because the supercomputer knows your every thinking and your thoughts and your feelings, and then they get that. This is what all this world of tomorrow is, this artificial world, this technology world, this AI, all this stuff that we don't understand. That's what it all is. It's taking from the human, using everything that the humans think and feel, and then putting it into the technology to seduce you into the technology. Of course you're going to believe what you see on the TV and in the computers and on the technology and in the artificial intelligence, because they're giving you what they know you want, because they've already took your thinking and your feelings and are going to use that. It's a bit like, I say this all the time, right? And I think this is what, and I know this is probably going to sound bizarre, but I think this is what has been happening even for a lifetime. But this is just an example, right? You know, if I go into the supermarket and I buy certain things, and I'm thinking about what I like, what is tasty, what is, um, you know, the different products and things. Okay, those products will then be brought back to me at some point. They will come into my being in the supermarket. Not because my thinking has created reality as it should really do, but because my thinking has been hijacked by the technology and the supercomputer, and then they use that to give us what we think we want and what we probably secretly are thinking. And that then keeps us happy in this technological fake world, because you have to throw some peanuts to the birds, a few, to keep them happy, a little bit happy, not too happy, because if you raise the frequency and the vibration too much, as I said, then everybody wakes up. And then, you know, you see the matrix, and then the matrix doesn't exist. So that is no good. And some people want to stay in the matrix, because some people believe in the matrix to such an extent, even though it's not a pretty matrix. It is for maybe a few, but for most people it's really not. But it's still acceptable to most of them. They can't think that the matrix can be any different. They can't think that they could have a different world. They can't think that they could have any world they want. They can't think that this world, which is what I took from some other gentleman that talked years ago in a video, even though I only saw him recently. Most humans don't think that this earth is for them, and that they shouldn't have to pay to live on their earth. They think that we have to have the systems, we have to pay to live on this earth, even though it's supposed to be ours. And most people pay very strongly to live and basically survive on this earth. We don't think that it's our earth and we are in contact with nature and that we create reality and that it's ours. No, we think that it is a physical world that has to operate in the systems and the setups that are. And most people are so into that, like in the movie The Matrix, where as I've mentioned all the films before, where, if memory serves me correct, where he says to the main fellow, most people don't want to be unplugged from the matrix. It's so entrenched in them. They will even fight you to stay in this hell matrix, this control world. They will fight because they don't love it, but they are so attached to it because they can't believe. They think the world will crumble without the systems and the control mechanisms. They think that it will crumble. They think that it couldn't exist without those things. They can't imagine that it could be a different world and possibly a better world. Just like we now think that we need the technology. We don't think that we can go back and use nature to make everything that we want, and that we can expand our own mind, our own human computer, as opposed to using this artificial thing which is not ours and which is merely being taking our thoughts, using them, and then using them to control us even more. I've gone off track. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about why it's important, I think, and there again, this is just my view, okay? It's just my view. And it's not how I've thought most of my life. Most of my life, I have seen myself as an individual. I have seen myself a certain way. I have said, hey, maybe I am neither male nor female. Maybe I am neither this or that. Now this is fashionable. I always said when I said it years ago, hey, this is how I think, but I'm not thinking right. I would not want everyone on this earth to be the same as me or to think the same as me. I think it and I've accepted it in myself. Actually, I now say it was merely a learning thing, but I've learned too late. But I certainly believed it and felt it and would have even and acted on it through my life. In other words, thinking, hey, it's a bit like if you see yourself as man, you will act and live your life as a man. If you see yourself as female, but now we have this merging, right? Okay, this is what I'm trying to get at. This is speculation, but it's also part of all the technology and all this whole way of thinking. Now, is it good for us? I've said before, if everyone had thought and everyone had become the same as me through my life, I'm talking about the elimination of the human species, of the entire human race here. If everyone had followed and copied me, the human race would be extinct right this very second. Because you can't have people that think like that. You can't have you can have a few, you could have me, but you can't have everyone thinking like that. Because if everyone, so what I'm saying is I never, unlike people are doing now, promoted my own view to say that this is how everyone else should do. Whereas now I look on the TV and different people and I see people who have their right to be unusual if they want to be themselves, as I was. But they are promoting it, encouraging it to other people. They are spreading that. They are, like the Archons, infecting others with it. And I say infecting because, as I've said before, the same as myself. Just because I think about myself a certain way doesn't mean that I think it is desirable for the human race. It is not. I've always said this. As I said, if everyone thought like me, the human race would be extinct now. So, but as I've said, but anyway, I should try to explain it this way. I'm sorry if I'm becoming loud, but I do get angry, yes, because I realise how I've been tricked and how I've been wrong. And now I see other people going down that same path. And unlike others who are like, hey, I'm this and that, and I'm free, and I'm an individual, I'm neither this nor that, aren't I special? Yes, you're special, all right. You will, like myself, make the human race extinct. Is that the idea? Because that's what you're promoting if you don't understand, as I didn't and now do, that we must have the human race breeding naturally. I've said this before. Naturally is the emphasis. Anything else works, but will lead to eventual extinction and a downgrade of the human being. Now I could explain why I think this, and there is a scientific basis behind it, because we are spiritual beings. But that is really scientific, even though we don't know it, because that's what we really are. So it really is science, but we are not shown that. The Matrix knows it, but they convince us that it's all physical, so we go further and further away from what we are and basically eliminate ourselves. They don't, The Matrix doesn't have to eliminate the human population because we do it to ourselves, because we are buying into, we make the choices. You see what I'm trying to say? Because they're not allowed to do that, just like they have to show us the truth, and then we make the choice. Because we have the power, but we don't know we have the power, because we wouldn't be given the choices if we didn't have to be shown it and we didn't have some power and we weren't spiritual beings. It's very hard to explain. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is this. Okay, I'm going to try to get back on track. This is what I learned, okay? If everyone was the same as me and I choose to not be one distinct sex, okay? If I choose to not be male or female, which I have in my life, okay? And I'm going to say this. This is not something that I'm boasting about, unlike people now. No, it's not something to be boasted about, but it was something that it's due to your circumstances, due to your it's due to society. It's due to you know, what you see as success in this world, because that is the downloading. Instead of downloading the success of creating life, just as our thinking creates life and reality, also the creation of another creator being is the most important thing. But this is being changed in our thinking, and to where we don't realize this, because what could be more important than that? What could be greater than that? Nothing really. Because if we are spiritual beings and our thought creates reality, we're all connected, and that is the creation of everything in a way. Then if we create another being and bring it in that does the same thing, that's really the be and end all in a funny kind of way, if you think of it that way. I don't know whether I'm putting this across well or not. I'm sorry if I'm not. But let me put it this way. This is what I'm trying to get to. I'm so sorry that I'm not doing it well again. We have two sexes, okay. We have male and female. At least that's what we always used to in the past, since the beginning of time as far as I know it, okay? I'm not going to go back and dispute different ideas and stuff. I have heard some different things, and look, it may or may, it's not relevant to what I'm saying now, because the reality is now is that the only way you create a spiritual human being, a life form, is through a male and female interaction. Also, mentally, right? And this is where we are being seduced and kind of led down this idea that we should be more neutral, that the extremes of male and female are perhaps undesirable, and they do cause a lot of conflict. They've caused a lot of conflict in my life, okay, like most people's. But that was because I didn't get it, and I didn't like it, and I get it now, but I still maybe don't like it. But what I am trying to say is this, right? If you have something that's exactly the same as yourself, and say it's neutral, fairly neutral, okay? I could be very blunt about this, but I don't want to, because We are in times where people are sensitive to these things, and I've been sensitive to it too. And that's the problem with making these videos. I want to just be very direct. If I was talking to someone face to face, just one individual, one on one, I could be completely direct and honest. But because I'm making a video, and who knows who's listening and what their thoughts are, I have to put things in an airy-fairy way. And that's probably why I don't sound very good. And I'm sorry about that, but I do that because of that reason, and also I can't just say straight out directly what I think. Some people do on the things. I don't do that because I'm too frightened to do it, okay? Fear is the key, as I've said before. And look, I have the fear too. I have the fear of the Matrix. I am not enlightened. I am not above it like we should be. I fear the Matrix and the Matrix God, and I fear because I know that I'm at low vibration, because the Matrix is controlling me. So I'm not prepared to take it on 100% today, because I don't want to depart today. Okay, so that's how it is, and this is the bottom line of it. But anyway, so I'm going to try to put things in the best way I can. And this is as the knowledge comes to me and my own experience, because it just came to me that we have the male and the female, and we don't always get on. And we're now merging much more to where the women are more like men and the men are more like women. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but I'm saying it does appear to be true for the population at large, and it seems to be the desirable thing to be. And and if people choose that, that is their right. I've chose it too. I'm saying now that I have chosen it, but I am saying that I'm reconsidering those choices, or at least saying perhaps they were not the best choices in a way, because if something is the same as yourself, you can't expand, you can't learn. If something is very different to yourself, it may be hard, it may be a challenge, it may even make you angry. And I've experienced this, particularly with the narcissistic types of people, okay, where they deliberately will bring out that they'll deliberately come against you in every area to keep you down, just like the Matrix keeps you down. The Matrix keeps humans down, and humans keep humans down, because narcissistic and which is a lot more of people now are more narcissistic. That means they're more into themselves. They're not spiritual, okay? They're and I've been that way too, so don't get me wrong, I'm not being uppity about it with myself. I'm saying I've been there, I've done that, and I know what it leads to. I'm saying that unfortunately, whether you think these things are good or bad, they're not really the reality. Because unless you see, I don't feel very spiritual at the moment, but I do know that I'm meant to be a spiritual being, and that's what my essence is. I just know that I have been pushed down, and that I have been seduced, coerced into thinking wrong about the world and the reality of the world and about other human beings. And I have been tricked into the fights and the arguments with narcissistic people. And even now, if you care about them, you will still play that game with them, just as the Archon God plays the game with us. He has made, the Archon God has made human beings little versions of him herself. Okay? Human beings were not originally like that, and weren't like that even if you go further back in time. But that is what has happened from what I can see. That's what I observe. But it's taken me a lifetime because all the people I've known have been of that type, and I have ventured into that a bit myself. Not to where it totally took me totally over, otherwise I wouldn't be making a video. Most of the time it takes people totally over to where they can't see it. And they can't let go of it because it becomes their whole identity. Instead of saying, like I'm saying now, we're totally deluded, I'm really not what I think I am. I'm not really this person that I say I am. Instead, I'm really a spiritual being who's just come here for this experience in a way, but have been not been able to expand at a spiritual level during my time here. So therefore my experience has been negative and physical, and very physical. But at any rate, I've gone off track again. But I've said before that the idea is that if you only, like for instance, you've got male and female, okay? So if you only had all females, right? Like maybe in the past I might have said, hey, better to stick with my own kind. Or for me to become more like the other kind if I think that's desirable. You see what I'm trying to say? But you don't learn anything if everyone is all neutral and all the same as yourself. You might have a more peaceful time. You might have no conflicts, but you will not expand or grow. That's the idea of male and female, is that not only is it necessary 100% to reproduce and to keep the human race going, which is common sense, and it has to be natural to produce a proper spiritual human being. There's something in that unison, I'm told, that creates the spirit, the proper being. You can create life, technical life, but it's not the same. Technical life is artificial life. It's not spiritual at all. It has no potential. It only has the potential to download and expand at a knowledge physical level, which we have been conditioned and made to believe is the only reality and is our true self and our true reality, which it is not. But at any rate, the idea of the male and female, evidently, which I have not lived this either, and certainly did not realise it. The idea of the male and female is that they are opposites, and they are meant to be opposites. They're meant to be different. They're not meant to be the same. A woman is not meant to be a man is not meant to be a woman. But now we have that, okay? That is because the Matrix has told us that you are less if you are a real woman, and you are less if you are a real man, because they have said that real men are negative in some ways, and to be a real woman is limited, because to bring and to create life is not an important thing. It's not special. It's not the be and end all. It's not anything. It's more important to compete in this fake matrix reality. It's more important for a woman to do a male job, to play a male sport, or to do something. That is much more creative for the human race down the track. That will benefit the human race. That is a very creative thing to do, to compete in this matrix fake world. But to create a spiritual human being and to extend your mind and your body to the ultimate level that it can possibly be, yourself, and then through another life, that is not valuable at all. Technology will answer all that. Technology will give you your advancement. It will turn you into a superior being, and it will create life. It will create mechanical life, artificial life. and it will just replicate. Machines replicate and copy and expand and learn that way, but they but in order to do that, they have to drain the human being first, because the human being really is the essence of all. But this is not something that we now realise, unfortunately, and it's something that I've realised too late too. But like I say, trying to point it out this way. The male and the female are opposites, yes, because of the matrix world that we live in. The matrix creates conflict between the male and the female. It sets up conflicts. It sends mind thoughts into the female in particular at this time, or in the last 50, 60 years or whatever, to where the female feels that her lot is limited, negative, and not worthwhile and not valuable. And she sees herself in competition with the male. This is what has happened, and you only have to look to realise this. This is a reality. Now, a lot of women see this as advancement, and they want to fight the male. Now, this is complicated in the sense that, as I've said before, the whole idea, I think, of the male and the female is for you to, yes, you will have conflicts, but that is largely set up by the matrix, okay? Because if you feel that you are less, and you are told you are less, and you are told that the male is more and he has a better lot, even though he probably doesn't. He probably has a lot less. He probably thinks the same about you. He thinks, wouldn't it be wonderful to be a female? She's got it easy. She can just do this and that. She's pretty. She can get what she wants. I have to all this is really quite a big joke. It's all just a big set up conflict in the way I see it now. In reality, the male and the female are meant to complement one another, and they're meant to learn from one another, because you can't learn from something that's exactly the same as yourself. How can you learn anything when you should already know yourself? So the only way you can learn something more is to learn from something that is of the same species as yourself, but has a different, has something different to offer. Also, I suppose if you think of it this way too, another thing is that there is a complementary physical angle to it too, because if I can't do something physically, I should be able to get the male to do the physical thing that I can't do. And then if he needs something at an emotional level or at another level, he will come to me for that. You see, because we have our different abilities, and combining our abilities, we learn from one another and complement one another. This old-fashioned idea of the two halves coming together is not really true, but there is some sense to it. But it's not like we put it. See, that makes it sound as though you're only half and you're less, but that's not true. It's just that everything in this world is like that. Everything around us, nature, everything. The computer. It's okay to combine with a mechanical device, give that over to yourself. It's okay to play with that and learn from that, isn't it? But no, it's not okay to learn from a man, or for a woman to learn from a man, or for a man to learn from a woman. No. You see what I'm saying? It's all screwed up. It's not, you've got to really stand back. This is what I'm trying to do, is stand back and see some sense to all of this. We really are very confused. And I was for a lifetime too. Like I say, I watch the TV and you can be seduced and maneuvered into thinking a way that you shouldn't be thinking, and you trust the wrong things. We trust the wrong things, and we're suspicious of the things that we should be trusting. Everything is in reverse in this world. This is how it's set up. It's a reverse duality world, as I've said before. That's how it is set up by the controlling forces. And while you think you're free and being an independent woman, and you think that you can be male and female, or you think you can be this, that, and everything, this is not what, this I don't think is what we think. This is what we are told to think. This is how I see it now, even for myself. And yet I didn't think that I was particularly into movements, and I wasn't. But even your very life, your circumstances will dictate how you think and feel about other people and other, the male and female even. And you're not going to see it as a learning process. And I didn't. And I still don't want to, because I don't want to learn. I don't want to learn. I don't want to be told. I don't want to be taught. I'm old and I've lived my life and I never liked school. So I don't want to be told. And this is how most people are. But strangely enough, I don't mind being told by impressive figures, by people that I admire, by fake people that I see, actors. When I say actors, I mean actors. Because basically, we are surrounded by actors. We are surrounded by actors. Not just actors that make movies, because when you watch a movie, you know that you're watching an actor. But on the other hand, that same actor, I know myself, I've admired a lot of these people. And I assume that I know them as a person a bit too, because of all the publicity and all the stuff. You read this or you see this and that. But this is a matrix. So everyone is an actor. When I say everyone's an actor, I don't look, okay, amongst all the actors, there are some human beings, okay. It's very hard for me to put this into words. It sounds stupid what I'm saying, I know. But if you're watching your TV, right? If you're watching a movie, if you're watching anything that comes out of a technical box, okay? This is what I'm going to say. Anything that comes out of a technical box, where it's someone that you personally don't know, but it's coming out of your technical box, your black box, your TV, your computer, anything that comes onto that screen, if it's someone you really don't know, and you may even have to use discretion, as I've said before, even with those that you think you know, even if you think it's a real person. But, I don't seriously know all the actors that I see in movies, but I might still follow their example and believe them to be authentic. But anything that comes out of the black box, they are called actors, and they are all actors. Everything you watch on there is acting. Everything. Even if it is in the genre, shall we say, of a documentary or a reality thing or a media type thing. It's still all acting, because that's what that whole medium is designed for. That's what it is. It's not real. None of it. But, the whole idea is that you should be able to discern and realize that even what they present, because it's all a matrix and it's all kind of digital anyway, this world, that means that, and it's a reverse world, and they have to show you the truth because you're a spiritual being, as I've said. Therefore, what you think to be not real on the black box is more likely to have a lot of truth in it. But you will have to discern that. You'll have to be able to look at it and say, is this what is really happening in the world, even though I can't see it? And then you'll have to look at other things that come on the black box and say, this is what I believe to be the real world, but is it? Is it making me think a certain way? Is it controlling my thinking? Is it dictating who and what I think I am? You see what I'm trying to say, like the sex thing, the male and female thing. If you watch certain people, if you watch what you are told is how you are meant to think about society and about your place in society and what you are meant to be and what sort of person you are meant to be, if you are told you are less because you behave this way or that, then you are going to buy into that because you're downloading all this. You're not thinking for yourself. These people that come to me, that I see now, that say, oh yes, we are individuals. Let me use an example, and I hope I don't offend anyone. I'm not intending to, I really aren't. But I'll openly say this, okay, even though it's not relevant. It's just something that come to me. This just shows how things change and how our perception even of what is acceptable and what is normal is indoctrinated into us, I think. Okay? Years and years ago, when I was a child and during those times, right, we had sideshows. We had the shows that would come. We still have the Royal Easter Show every year where we have sideshows. The sideshows have changed now. But for years we had, and the circuses did the same thing. The circuses used to travel around vaudeville and stuff like that. They used to have, well, I suppose you could say they used to have, like, one of the main attractions was the tattooed lady. Another attraction that was very big was the half man, half woman, the woman that had the beard and the male characteristics. These were freak shows. People used to come and pay to see these people because they found them to be freakish. And they were like, oh, that is so unnatural and so weird. And they'd pay money to see them. The tattooed lady, half man, half woman. In a funny sort of a way, that used to be, yes, the circus come to town to show you the freak shows, the weird attractions, the abnormal, the unnatural, something one in billions. You don't have to go to the circus anymore. If you think about it, and what I'm saying is that this shows to me an indoctrination, and we're all been guilty of it. We all fall for it. It's like fashion, okay? But, and we think that it's us. But, not long ago, it would have been the freak show. the circus coming to town, the sideshows. So I'm saying that, it's interesting that what is normal or desirable even, and what was once considered undesirable and not normal, can become transformed by a gradual mind control, in a way, to where that becomes normal and acceptable and desirable, what was once the sideshow, the freak show. That's just an example, and this is nothing against all these sorts of things, but I'm saying that, are we really individuals when we proudly, show off that we are different and that we are no longer a kind of regular male and female? Like, are we unique by doing that? Or are we merely just being downloaded with mind control, mind parasites? Because, the tattooed lady is now glamorous, desirable. The half man, half woman is now being an individual, free person. So the mechanical computer, the artificial intelligence, the inferior robot, the thing that's supposed to serve man, now will eliminate and take over man. Are we progressing? Or are we, I think the title of the video, it just comes back to me, the Archon elimination of the human earth. These things are not expanding us in the right direction, I don't think, in a way. It's not for me to say, it's still a choice, as I say. You have the right to go with technology, to be a tattooed lady, to be a bearded lady, you have the right to be an individual, a freak, whatever you want to call it. You have the right to do that. I have the right to do that. I've been these things. I used to consider myself a freak. Not in the norm, and I didn't think that was desirable. That's the only difference, and I didn't recommend it to other people. Whereas most people, because they are more dominating now, they want to recommend it to everyone else. They're not satisfied with saying, hey, I'm the tattooed lady, I want you to be the tattooed lady too. You see, that's what I'm saying. And this is where I think that it's not that is the nature of some human beings, because they are more dominating and they want to control, just as the Matrix controls all of us as well, the Archon God Matrix. They control, and humans do too, and they are used by the Matrix. The dominating people that are on this earth are used by the Matrix to influence and control the spiritual human beings and direct them down certain paths. down the, I'm the tattooed lady, come with me and you be a tattooed lady too. I'm the half man, half woman, I'm the bearded lady, you come and be the bearded lady too. I'm the strong woman, you come and be the strong man, like in the, yeah, that was another one. The strong man was always in the circus and in the freak shows and in the vaudeville and the thing, all these things. But what I'm saying is that I know I'm not putting this very well, but I'm trying to use examples to show that, well, for you to make of it what you will, okay? Because I don't think I'm putting it very well, but for you to make of it what you will. These things do, you can, as I've said before, these sorts of things are all very well, but there's not going to be very much learning or much growth to a man or a woman if they merge and become a fake version of the true version. In other words, I don't think that as a woman, that by pretending to be a man and competing in male ways, that expands me as an individual human being. It's merely me mimicking something else, and I become a fake person then. And that's very appropriate because we live in a fake world. So then you have fake people living in a fake world, not growing, using the computer for growth. So the computer grows, the artificial intelligence grows, then that takes over very easily the fake people because they haven't developed as spiritual beings and they can no longer create reality. Their gifts are taken from them because they substituted the technology for their gifts instead of developing their gifts. So they've given up the power of creation, both at a continuation of the human species level and also at their own individual level as a human being. So they become, like we have become, human beings that see themselves as limited, but they're in a fake way pretending to be superior, because instead of developing their spiritual abilities to where they're proud of whether they're male or female, but mostly they're proud because they're a spiritual human being, but they don't feel that their body or that being male or female is a limitation. It's nothing to do, it's a learning experience. And if you don't get it right, you'll have to keep coming back like Groundhog Day to keep doing it over and over again. And if you get it wrong, the more you get it wrong, you end up like me, where your life is complete at its lowest level because you keep repeating the same mistakes. You don't want to learn. You don't want to take on the tough challenges. Okay, I'm a woman. I think some man is doing better than me in some ways. So I want to be like the man instead of saying, hey, I should want to develop what is best for me. I can learn from the man, but I shouldn't want to be him. I shouldn't want to destroy him. I shouldn't want to compete with him. I shouldn't. That's not what I was here for. I was put here to be what I was meant to be. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been put here in this form, you see. It might be easier to take on another form, but if I do that, I won't learn anything. So therefore, I only have to come back and do it over and over again until I get it right, like Groundhog Day. That's the whole idea of that movie. That was trying to tell humans that you can do things the easy way, but you won't get out of them. You won't escape things by ignoring them or taking the easy way out. And if you You know, like you can mimic something. You can mimic being a male or a female. You can combine and you can be both if you want to. But you will be compromised, because to do that means that you have to compromise something. And so as a spiritual human being, you'll become less spiritual, and therefore you will be throwing away a lot of your abilities. You may not realize this, because if you live in the physical matrix world, if you are rewarded by society and by the matrix, by the media, by, like if you're an actor, for instance, and you project a certain image and they pay you millions of dollars to project that image, you won't think that you're compromised. You will think that you are doing very well. And at a physical level, you will be. You will be paid a lot of money and you will have many comforts. But you will have to sacrifice your spiritual abilities for the physical matrix. And how long you will have the physical comforts for? A lifetime, probably, if you play with the matrix, I'm guessing. I don't know after that. After that, that's, but you know, but even, I'm guessing that if you're a spiritual being, that even if you do that and you are rewarded greatly at a physical level and you're very happy in this physical world, I would still imagine that if you are a spiritual being, and all authentic human beings are, that's what they really are, as I've said before. You have to come from that premise, though. Like I say, turn off the video if you don't come from that, because otherwise most of this will not be applicable to you. It won't. And, you know, yeah. But still, I would say that if you are a spiritual being, you could never know what you would be giving up, because we have not rose to the levels of to where we would know what we could have at a physical and mental and every possible level if we were at the highest spiritual level, because we have not, most of us have not touched on that. Very few have. And so therefore we are satisfied. If we are, the more we are rewarded in the physical world, we're very satisfied, because we don't know what we're giving up for that, to become the fake person of the matrix, the fake person, the fake actors that seduce the fake people, because we end up all becoming fake then. And we don't know what's real. We don't even know what we really are. We become what we're told we are meant to be. We start playing that game, and we waste our entire life trying to be what the matrix tells us we're supposed to be. And we will fight for that even. We will get into arguments, and we won't learn from the opposite sex. No, we won't see it that way. We'll see it as a competitive thing. We'll see it as a destruction thing. We'll see it as, I've got to eliminate the other person instead of learning from them. Because I have to say this honestly, in my own life, in my own experience, I have not had any successful relationships. None. They've all been negative. And they've been hard, and they've been conflicting, and they've been negative, always against me. And that's why I often went to being a loner. But at the same time, if I had known what I knew now, I would have realised that even though they were negative relationships, and negative with the opposite sex even, should we say, because men and women are different, and they should be. And that doesn't really matter, even that it is the opposite sexes. But you know, that the only reason I say that is because the merging of things means for no learning, in my view now. But I learnt more about myself from those negative relationships, because the narcissist in particular, as negative as that individual can be to more positive individuals or to those that they deal with, they really bring out in the spiritual being in particular, but even just in anyone, they will bring out and show you what is important. You should have known it all along, but they can actually be, even though they are intending to be negative, they can actually be really showing you what is important. They will really completely throw light on that. Whereas before your association with them, you would have been just going along and downloading what you're told, and you know, probably, unless you really already were a spiritual being and very calm and already knew yourself and already understood the world, which most of us don't, because it's a fake world and it's there to confuse us. No one can figure this world out because it's not meant to be figured out. It's meant there to confuse everyone and to make us all play in this fake world, to play with one another, to compete with one another, to to not make harmony with one another at all, really. But you can. I have found that I have learned more from those negative people. What I would say negative, because they're negative for you, because they are not there to deliberately make you, they don't appear to be there to deliberately make you expand and become aware of what you really are or what you should be. But they will draw very much attention to, by them trying to take things from you, you will know what you really are and what is really important to you. It's a bit like if you value being a free individual person and you don't want to be controlled by technology, and you don't want to be controlled by everyone around you, because you believe in live and let live, and you think they can do what they want, but I'm different to them, so I have to do it my way. But then you encounter the narcissist that is like this matrix world where it's like, no, you have to do things the way I think because I'm the narcissist and I'm the dominant force and I know everything and I'm right. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm learning and I do think I'm right and I know, but I'm not, like I've said before, these might be my views, but I'm not going to force someone else to take them on. I'm not even going to influence them. So I'm not going to present myself in a desirable way so that you are seduced into thinking that, yes, the tattooed lady is very attractive. Because if you really seduce people, you can seduce people into ideas, as I've said before, that they wouldn't normally have entertained. And this is part of the world we live in, and this can be done. And some people want everyone to be like themselves. This is the world we live in, where everyone wants to be a robot that is the same as everyone else. But they don't know this. They think that they're individuals. But the minute they combine in unison with technology, they are giving themselves over to a robot entity, a robot entity world, a supercomputer that controls this world, and a god that controls that. Entities, even if you say humans that control, it doesn't matter, but it controls you while you think you are being an individual and free and, yeah, tattooed lady, half man, half woman, strong man, strong woman, free thinking, this and that. Whereas in reality, your thinking is downloaded to the supercomputer. The supercomputer then sends back the information to you, and you behave accordingly, whilst thinking that that it's all your own thinking, and that it's all your own ideas. And that, hey, I just decided to become a tattooed lady today because I'm a free thinking, free, strong woman of the future and now. And I should just go and connect myself to my AI computer and be freer still. And I don't think I shall bother with the opposite sex or any of this sex stuff, because I'm better off with the computer, with the AI. And the opposite sex are inferior to me, because I have been told by the supercomputer, by the downloading, that I am superior and I have nothing to learn by the opposite sex. I cannot benefit from them. They cannot show me anything that I can't. In fact, I can become them if I want to. I can compete with them. This, and then the technology will offer me the alternative to where I don't have to then associate with them if I don't want to. I don't have to breed with them. So I don't have to have the unison to create a spiritual human being. Now, regardless of what I think about these things, and I have been there and done that, have not wanted to be involved in these things, and I'll openly admit that. It would be very easy to say, well, it's much easier to make a human being in a test tube than what it is to go through all the pregnancy and all this stuff. What would the difference be? Why would you want to go through all of that? Why is it so hard? That's not something I can answer, except to say that that's how it has become. It's hard, but it is necessary to create the more authentic spiritual human being. And the Matrix knows this, but we don't know it. We don't know any of these things. And certainly while we are in the Matrix, all these things are being made rather distasteful to us. And mostly, and I'm not putting this very well, we are totally out of touch with reality. Now you can say, well, maybe I am. So this is the opinion, okay? Either I am or everyone else is, or at least most people are. Not everyone, but the majority that turn on the black box and believe every stage play that is put on it. And it looks real. But, if you think about it, they can fake up the most amazing visuals for most movies. Also, you have to say, where do they get all these ideas from? Do you think someone just invents all this stuff? No, it's all a reality. It's just that it's not what we're shown. It's not our reality. But it is a reality behind the curtain, as they say, a bit like the puppet show. You see the puppets moving around and someone's pulling the strings, but you don't see the person pulling the strings. I don't know whether I'm putting this very good, but what I'm saying is that everything on there is fake. But if you reverse it round, what you think is fake is then real, or at least has elements of real. You'll have to discern. It's only when you stand right back and you analyse it and start to question at a more see, this world is very, very, very much a trick world. You know, I said I'm going to be blunt here, even though I wasn't going to be. There are many spiritual human beings that are probably born right this very second. Babies, spiritual babies. I'm trying to get my thoughts here. They're being born and they die before they even grow. This you can take whichever way you want. This can be like to where there is birth and then early death. This you could take to where a life is stopped before it even comes into the being almost. But these, if they are reproduced naturally, are spiritual human beings, if you want to look at that, or the potential to be a full spiritual human being. They probably are actually, but I cannot go there and I don't choose to. But you see, the problem with this is that then we have our rights, and in other places people have no rights. Now, I'm not putting this right because I can't be direct. But essentially, what I am surmising is that there are more spiritual human beings being eliminated from the planet, or from the earth, shall we say, at the present time, than there are spiritual beings being brought into existence. The balance is out, but we are unaware that the balance is out because we are unaware of the fake reality and what is going on in the fake reality. In other words, you know, we're not really keeping track of how many people are born naturally, not naturally, how many people are coming together to create life, how many people are becoming not how many people are deciding that they would rather not create life. Any rate, what I am saying is that I think that there are less coming in than are going out. So this is going to lead to the elimination of the human earth, which was the title, okay? And then you will have to substitute that with artificial beings, you see. And spiritual beings will willingly, through choice, become artificial beings. So that's a choice too, and it's not for me to tell people one way or the other, but what I am saying and suggesting is that it would be better if we had at least tried being the highest spiritual beings we could have been, with all the with all the abilities that would have come with that, because the fact that we haven't experienced these abilities and haven't activated them and not been able to, and are unaware that we create reality, our thinking and feelings and all this is creating a reality and has that potential. If we actually knew this and could put it into operation instead of being bombarded with the negative matrix that keeps us limited to where, like myself, I know this, but I'm not able to do it. If we could experience that, would we perhaps then reconsider going down the technical path of going artificially with everything? You see, because that looks very good while we have not experienced the full potential of what it would be to not only physically but mentally be at the top level as a spiritual being. We have not experienced that. None of us have, or at least if there is anyone, I don't know of anyone, but there probably have been some in the past that have. I'm not going to mention names, but it's always been a potential. But that potential is always going to be very limited by the matrix. It is going to be squashed down. But even if we knew this, see, as I'm saying, I believe this, so therefore, even though I'm not able to do this, I am still not going to go down the other path if it can be helped. Although it will be forced onto me, because unfortunately in this world, I say live and let live. In other words, I say, hey, I will put my opinion to you. You can make your choice. You can put your opinion to me and I will make a choice on it. But we're not really getting that. All we're getting is a fake world. And, you know, but what I am saying is that my choice, I will not be allowed a choice, because we don't live. Because when you combine all with the computers and this technology, individuals are no longer individual. So even though I will let you become a computer if you want to, you can become an artificial intelligence, you can become whatever you want. I will let you do that. But you have to allow me to stay as I am if I do not wish to do that. But instead, because you will combine with the computer, you will make it impossible for me to have my right and my freedom to stay as I am as an individual. This is the problem with things. He says, so what I'm saying is I'm going to give you a choice. I may not agree with your choice. I may think it's foolish. I understand it though, because it would be impossible for you to, as it is for me, to realise what you're giving up if you haven't experienced it, if you haven't been allowed to reach that potential as a spiritual being. If you're meant to be able to fly and you've never been given the wings, or even if you could mentally transport yourself somehow because of an advanced spiritual state, you're not going to think that's possible. You're going to think the only way you can do something is with the technology. So, as I've said before, it would seem like a natural choice. Although, as I've said also before, and the point I made was the tattooed lady and the bearded lady, etc., in the sideshows and the circuses that used to be. What we once would have considered to be ridiculous, outrageous, stupid, and undesirable, the computer, the technology, the idea of being a robot, is now becoming sane and sensible and desirable. Not for me to say, but what I am saying is think about this. Are we not being conditioned to think these things are now normal and desirable and natural and good and beneficial and advancement and progress? Because we once wouldn't have. We would have laughed at it, just as we laughed at the sideshows. As I say, that's just an example, because that occurs to me, that things that we once thought were strange and undesirable are now being made to appear to be desirable. And a certain amount of common sense seems to be flying out the window. But that's for you to decide too. You might say, hey, that's just because we were so, what's the word? We were so narrow-minded. We were so conservative. But what I say is, what is the truth though? What is the real truth behind all this? Surely there is a truth. But of course, we live in a fake world, so not everyone wants the truth either, because the truth is too painful, because we're living in this fake world and buying into it, and we don't want to have to admit that we are living in a fake world. We don't want to have to admit that we are, like I was through my life, brainwashed, conditioned and controlled by what was around me, what I was told, what I see on my box. I love my box, I love my movies, and I did. I still do. The only difference is now that sometimes they make me more angry now, and sometimes I'm disappointed in some of this and that, sure. The illusion, to lose the illusion, especially if you bought in for a long time. If you only buy in for a little time, you can probably say, hey, I've learned from that and I can move on. But if you do it for a lifetime, you're like, hey, I can't go back now. And it's like you've wasted your life. But I think that's what we've all done to some extent, because obviously I'm not the only one that's bought into that illusion, and people now are buying into even more outrageous illusions. And, you know, so I don't know, but it's a choice, as I've said before. But, you know, it's very easy for us to think that we're free thinking and that we're choosing all these things ourselves, and that we, you know, the individual, particularly if you start to believe what you're indoctrinated with and what you're told is the norm, and you think that I don't think that we've ever really not been conditioned and directed. This is not our world and never has been for a long, long time, not unless you go back to when the Living Library first started, which is the little bit of a history that I've been told. From the minute we were intercepted, shall we say, by the technical beings, the advanced technical beings, the gods, whatever you like to say, we have never really thought 100% for ourselves, and most of us have never developed what we were naturally meant to be, and we've been kept in the dark as to what we really are and to what we could achieve. And instead we are now going down the path of where we no longer are even going to be allowed a choice. And this is what we don't realise, because the technology is literally, as I've said before, the supercomputers that run this world, the internet, even the things we use, they are connecting us and they are directing us, and they are filling our mind with the fake reality. They tell us what to think, what to do, how to feel, what we are, where we should go, what we should worry about, who we should like, who we should trust, who we should believe, who we shouldn't believe, and they just play us like puppets. And we are all, and it's very hard to see what is genuine amongst it all. Even I fall for it every day still, even low, I'm aware of it. Every day when I find something that I think might be genuine, I then realise that, hey, that is still part of the matrix usually. But that doesn't mean, as I've said before, that you won't be told truth. The messenger, as I've said before, is not important. I'm not important at all. I'm only important to myself, or I should be. But we're not told we're important. But the messenger should not be the important thing. Just as, and I don't like to be religious, but just like we have the religions, right? And certain people are figureheads of the religion. How should I say? It's no good me using the example of priests or ministers and things like that, because they are the matrix. But like, for instance, if the God head or the words, if the words make sense to you and they are benefit to you, then you can use the words. But don't buy into the preacher. Don't buy into me, the messenger. Don't buy into the messenger. Okay? That's what I'm saying. The messengers, we are all part of the matrix. We are all programs, like in the Matrix movie. I was going to go on about all the movies again. I will do that in another thing, because all the movies show you a lot of truth. And if you piece all the movies together, all the scenarios, and the more things that you think are not true, if you piece them all together, no good just one, you really need to piece them all together. But then you will say, hey, this cannot be possible, this is too confusing, this is too bizarre, this is too weird. But then you will get the true picture. But you won't like it. I don't like it. You won't like it, so you probably won't want to do it. But the truth is the truth. Unfortunately, the truth should be a good thing. The truth will set you free, but you will still have to do your time in hell in this matrix first. And that's the difficult thing. That's why we don't want to wake up and see the truth, because like myself, I'm still here and it's not fun. So I wish I had not seen the Matrix in that respect, like Neo in the movie The Matrix, same thing. But once you do see it, then you won't be let out of it anyway, and you'll have to face it and you'll have to deal with it. But if you are able to raise your frequency, as I've said before, because all is frequency, vibration, and we create it and we influence it by our emotions and our vibrations, etc. If you can rise up above it, then the truth will set you free, as the saying goes. Because then it won't matter to you if it's distasteful or hard, because you will be in a state mentally, which is what we're meant to be. That's why I say this, at a spiritual level, if you can get to that spiritual level where you feel wonderful, you're not going to want all this other stuff. You're not going to want or care for the world and what it is offering you, because you will know that it's inferior, and you'll ignore it and it won't affect you. Whereas while you are living in it and buying into it, and not only believing it, but while your frequency is low and you're affected by the negative matrix and by the negative downloading of information that you get and believing it, even if you don't believe it. I don't believe any of it, but I'm still affected by it, you see. So, because I know that everyone else believes it, or most people believe it. So it's like it's no good me seeing a lie if everyone else believes the lie. That makes me even more depressed, you know, so that's the problem. The whole idea at this time was for everyone to wake up. And that was what was meant to happen, because if I can wake up, the whole world should have been woken up, because I was a real dummy. And like I say, even now, I do not have details. I'm not knowledgeable. I don't have all the history. Haven't studied all these things. But at a very basic level, I kind of know what's going on. And I wish I had more information, because then facts seem to impress people. Details impress people these days. It has to make logical sense for most people, because unless you've experienced it and know some of this truth, then most of what I say isn't always going to make sense to people. It isn't, because, and like I say, if you don't think that, see, when you say a spiritual being, if you don't believe that, it essentially means that we are not what we think we are. It essentially means that we are trapped by this physical world, and we believe the physical world to be real, but it's really a hologram, you could say. It's like when you put the goggles on and you go into that virtual reality world. It appears to be more real than real, and that's what we're in. And it's not something that we control or operate either. So this is why we are in this continual turmoil, and why we think that we're right in everything we do, when unfortunately, even when we think we're progressing in every direction, both as male and female, technologically, psychologically, look, we just, it's not a world that we have control over, so how can we possibly be going in the right direction? Because we are downloaded with what we are downloaded with. We don't get to decide anything. And what we do think is used by the supercomputer to manipulate and control us even more now, because we've given the technology, we've let the technology take over this planet. Most of us are not aware of how advanced the technology even is. You don't know that your very thinking is used to manipulate you. I know this. I believe it to be true. It happens to me all the time. It shouldn't be like this. We should be controlling our own thinking, free from outside interference, or at least, you know, like I say, even in the past, we always had, it was never our world, but at least it wasn't to where our very thinking was totally manipulated by technology. We at least had some free choice. Now we have none. Technology has taken us over. That means we have no choice. That means we're total robots, really. The complete opposite of what we started out as. And the complete opposite of the direction in which we were meant to go, to advance to our highest level. We are now at our lowest level. We are almost non-existent. And then we're also deciding that we don't like one another. We don't like men, we don't like women, we don't like this, we think we're this, we think we're that. So we're actually wiping ourselves out for extinction because we refuse to breed with one another. So we'll just duplicate clones or robots in a laboratory, make duplicate, you know, and then we're extinct. Literally. I mean, there's, you know, it seems like a very extreme case scenario, but if you actually look at the way we operate in the world now and the way we think, we actually would think this is normal and desirable, because that is how we actually think about ourselves and about the technology and about, I mean, so many people see it as a desirable way. And I'm saying that you probably don't even have a choice now anyway, because we've already made that choice. We've already allowed it to take over ourselves and our earth and every natural thing that's in it. And what world we will be looking at down the track, I cannot imagine. But it won't be a human world, and it won't be a natural world, and it won't be a life world. It will be a dead world. But maybe there's still time, for us to at least pull the reins on the horses and slow it down or something. I don't know. It doesn't look that way to me. But also, while we're in the dark and are unaware that this is gradually happening, that we're making that choice, but we almost think that we're not making a choice, because that's how I thought of it. I didn't think I was actually making any choices. But, we are making the choices, because even if you don't make a choice, if you let something slide, if you just say it doesn't matter, like I did most of my life, I said, oh, look, live and let live. I'll let everyone else have their computers if they want to. I think I'll be the last to use one, which I was. But eventually they got me too, you see, that's right. Eventually you will end up being drawn in to go with the majority. The majority rules. It takes a very strong individual, someone who really does think for themselves, to go against, because no one wants to be left out. That's another dangerous thing too in this world, is the gang mentality, the group mentality, the hive mind mentality. But this is not the natural connection that I talk about, where we're spiritual beings that create reality and that we're connected. This is an artificial construct connection that divides us and controls us, and that we do not operate solely with our own thinking at all. It's a totally different thing altogether, but we are under the delusion that it's the same thing, and that's why we like it, because it makes us feel safe. It makes us feel that we're not alone, because alone we feel powerless and limited, and that's because we're not at our high level to where we know that we can do more, and that we do have, that we should have the ability to change reality even. But see, we wouldn't think any of these things if we were at the high spiritual level. But technology is not about expanding human beings or about joining human beings together. It's about mind controlling human beings so that they all think and behave and do the same, and all are the same, to where there's no separation, to where, that's right, a man does not learn from a woman does not learn from a man. Better for everyone to be exactly the same. Sure, you probably wouldn't have any problems, but you won't grow. And eventually you'll stagnate and die, I would imagine, and become extinct as well, at a physical level too. So anyway, I've depressed you and myself enough. But like I'm saying, for the few of people, if there's anyone out there that is a spiritual being and wants to keep away from all that, and wants to really realize that they are in a fake matrix world system, and that they wish to be what they authentically really are, and that they don't wish to be limited by what this fake matrix technological world is making them be, and that it's only a temporary state anyway, and that they were meant to learn from it somehow. There is hope for you that can do that, and that know that, and that even acknowledge or assume that there is a choice to worship the matrix or to worship a spiritual state, world even. It's probably very real, but it's outside of this world. And this world is no longer the original paradise that it probably was at the very beginning of when it was all created. It was a paradise, and it was taken over, and it is now anything but a paradise. And, you know, we make that choice in a way, as we did probably then, because we didn't realise it was a paradise. We were seduced by technology, by the promise of more. It's like I say, you can be tricked into anything. We all can. You put some bad fashion on a beautiful woman, and that bad fashion starts to look better. Maybe vice versa, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that it's seduction. It's mind control. It's telling you something gradually, usually putting it there gradually, to where you eventually believe it. And if it's repetitive, the more you see it, you start to accept it as norm. Everything in this world we accept as norm after a while, and we think it's then desirable. Like I say, the tattooed lady is no longer a laughing stock at the freak show, at the carnival, at the circus. The bearded lady is no longer something to pay to see because it's something that shouldn't be, because it's a freak of nature. Almost something that you would have felt sorry for. Someone you would have felt very sorry for many years ago. Now it would be, and you know, like, I'm not making a comment about those things, but I am saying that, as you can see, what was once something you would have looked upon in horror and sympathy or any number of other feelings now is, oh, that's very liberating, that's very free thinking, that's very individual, that's very original, that's being broad-minded. You see, there's a mind concept, a mind parasite, a mind infiltration has happened to change our way of thinking about it. Now it's for you to decide whether that is good or bad, but also I just say, hey, I don't care whether it's good or bad. I don't want that mind infiltration. I don't want that mind control. I don't want that mind influence. I want to just be allowed to judge it for itself without being indoctrinated with saying, oh, you're not broad-minded if you don't think that it's normal or nice or that it's okay or this or that. Or you have to think about it a certain way. You're not allowed to feel sorry. You're not allowed to feel angry. You're not allowed to feel anything about it. You have to accept it. If we say it's normal, it's normal. And you're not allowed to go back and say, hey, but it wasn't normal a while back, and hey, it was, and am I allowed to like or dislike it? Do I have to then be that way? Because, I really think that it's more like, hey, now, I don't feel that it's like me saying, oh, I don't even care about the tattooed lady, okay? I don't care about the tattooed lady, because I don't actually. But that tattooed lady is going to say to me, hey, but I care that you're not the tattooed lady. You have to be the tattooed lady, just like I am. You're not normal if you ain't. You see, that's what I think is where I have a little bit of anxiety, shall we say, about the now. Maybe it was wrong to have the tattooed lady in the circus, but hey, she chose that because she got paid for it, because she knew that she was the only one and she could make a living out of it. So she probably didn't really, it was still better than trying to convince everyone that it was normal and, and to be probably sitting in the gutter. So, I'm going on, I've gone off track. I'm so sorry. I'm being stupid now. I really am, and I apologise. But, look, it's just food for thought, okay? I'm just going to fold up because it gets too heavy and but like I say, it's just that I don't feel that everyone really is an individual and that everyone is allowed to free think. This cannot be possible with technology. Technology is a system. Technology tells you how to think. Just as I've been brainwashed and loved being brainwashed almost by my TV and things over the years. I enjoyed it even. I didn't see it as brainwashing. I found it entertainment and relief. I didn't realise that I was being indoctrinated with ideas and how I thought about the world and about myself and other people by it. I wasn't able to step back then because I didn't see that it is a mechanism that does have far-reaching effects on how we think. I mean, these things were not invented and given to us any more than technology is just for our amusement, because they cost a lot of money and they cover the whole world. These things these are the Matrix. The Matrix doesn't bother with lots of things. The Matrix doesn't care that spiritual beings are dying by the downloads this very second, and that they are being eliminated one way or another, and that we do it consciously sometimes too. The Matrix doesn't care about that, because the Matrix, we are just the game players in the Matrix. So what I'm saying is that the Matrix has its own setup, and it isn't always to make our lives extended or to make our human race go on forever either. I mean, what if the game players, the game controllers, should I say, we're the game players, but the game controllers, the God entities, the beings that operate the Matrix decide, hey, we want the Matrix changed. We want to change the Matrix. We don't want as many humans in the Matrix now. We want more machines. We want more this. Well then, because we have free choice, they can't just do that. They have to give humans the choice as to whether they want to let themselves be replaced by machines, or whether they want to think about themselves a certain way and decide to not continue being natural, authentic human beings. And as we have chosen, rightly or wrongly, and indoctrinated or not, we have chosen to not expand ourselves into the highest spiritual human beings, but rather to become technologically and matrix dependent, worldly dependent, physically dependent, and believe that that is all there is, and that we are at the highest that we can be as physical human beings, that the only way that we can expand more is to use more technology. This is our belief system. This is what we are told, this is what we believe, and this is how we operate, and this is the path that we're choosing. And we have that choice and that right. But my only problem is that those that decide not to take that path, because the world is 100% technology, those who even don't want that choice, whereas in the past you could have people that did have different choices, whereas now I feel that, and this is a reality, not just what I feel, but that if you do want to stay natural and don't want to use the technology, or don't want to, or want to lessen it, you actually can't, because the whole world is covered by it. This is my only criticism, really, of it, because I'm not going to force, if you want to be a limited technological being as opposed to a highly evolved spiritual human being, and I don't blame you if you do, because you're going to find it hard pressed to be that high spiritually evolved being. But if you choose that, that's your right. Rightly or wrongly, I would not be forcing it. I'm just saying that there's a choice, and I'm saying that I think it's sad that we're not shown that choice. I know I wasn't. And that we should be aware enough at this time to realise this, because we do see a lot of fake stuff in the world. And instead of saying, hey, look, if this is fake, why is everything else not fake? Because everything is fake, really. Because it's a system, it's not ours. It's not something that, common sense, I suppose, should really tell people that they don't really know what goes on behind the curtain or behind closed doors with anything, mostly. We're given the illusion that we have some say in it, and then we think that we are free and that we're making choices. We think that if we're even protesting about something, that means we're free and that we're making ground, whereas really we're just a laughing stock, because in reality, if you have technology all over the world, you are powerless, because you can be made to depart the matrix very quick if that's the case. If you are not part of the matrix and don't serve the matrix, then you'll be forced to leave the matrix, and you'll want to leave it too, probably. But and maybe there's even a choice. But if things get too hot, a bit like a little video I saw, when things get too hot in hell, you're quite happy to try to get out of it, That wasn't a very good example, but the truth is that we are in hell, and it is hot, but we have been conditioned to accept the heat, and if it is hot, we're told the reasons why it's hot, and then we'll try to solve the problems of why it's hot. But it's all one big trick. Every single thing in the matrix is a trick. Everything, when I say a trick, everything is a opposite. Everything is not what you think. Even when you think you find the truth, you'll probably then find that there's something else there, that even the truth will be used to trick you. That's what I've seen anyway. I can't believe that even when I find the truth that that will be used to trick me, because you're talking about master. This is master hocus pocus on this planet, except that it's not funny hocus pocus. It's not fun, and humans do not have much power in that hocus pocus. They should. They should be. They should be like they're like Harry Potter, shall we say? And I've not seen those movies there again, but he's like magic. They're like Harry Potters that don't know they're Harry Potters. But the Matrix are also master Harry Potters, but they're of the different sort. Because I would imagine in that movie there's probably all different types, different forces, good and bad, I would think, if I know movies. I haven't seen it, but they are the opposing to Harry Potter or whatever. That's assuming that Harry Potter was the good guy in the Harry Potter movies. I have not seen them. For all I know, he might have been naughty too. I don't know. I'd have to look at those movies. I'm just assuming that because of the image, so I could be wrong. But either way, there is people, human beings, that should be able to manipulate the Matrix and are Harry Potters, but they all are, we all are, but we don't know it, and we don't know how to get access to it. It's covered from us. We don't believe in it. We don't know it exists. We have not been told it. We are told the opposite from the day we're born, so we believe we are just limited physical beings that live and die and have very little, and that have to operate in the Matrix the way the Matrix tells us and the way the Matrix appears to be. We believe in the Matrix, we believe in everything that is in it mostly, even when we are shown that there is a lot of you know, even when we're shown that a lot of what we think is real is fantasy, or that we have been misled, or that we've took it the wrong way, or that we've made the wrong choice, or that maybe we're told one thing one minute and something different the next, which certainly has been my experience anyway of the Matrix, that, you know, I can never keep up with what is real or what isn't anyway, because they keep changing their mind. And if you live long enough, if you'd lived for thousands of years with full memory of all those years, you would see the Matrix very clearly, because you would see how it just is just a game, and that they just change the facts and the whole scenarios round to suit the agenda at a given time. You would see that, but because we have such limited time here, and it's very gradual, everything that happens, we believe it all to be true. And we can't go back into history, and don't forget, even the history is part of the Matrix, because I wasn't really around thousands of years ago. At least if I was, I have no memory of it, right? So I have to believe what the Matrix tells me happened then. And that's the Matrix. The Matrix is a fantasy world. The Matrix is a video game. The Matrix is a virtual reality world that is all set up and fake and used to play humans to where they keep the Matrix going. And they don't want humans to be too high up, because then they won't want to play, because they'll say this game's a little bit limiting for us. You know, we don't want to play, we don't mind playing a little bit, we're not going to play here forever because it's too limiting. You know, you can learn a lot by being limited. You can learn a lot by even that which you don't like, but you're not going to stay with it forever to where it brings you down. And that goes for other human beings, whether it be man or woman. You can learn a lot from even negative males and females. That's the idea. But you're not meant to stay with them forever to where once you've learned from them, then you move on, because but you shouldn't want to destroy them, because without them you wouldn't have learned. They're a valuable commodity. They help you to spiritually grow. As I've said before, that's why we have the different sexes and things. If everyone was all the same, we wouldn't progress. then we would only be reliant on downloading the fake information from the fake artificially intelligent computers, which is really only rerouting what we give them anyway. They steal our thoughts and then use them to direct us back. And we're unaware of this is happening. I've just become aware of it though. I see it all the time. And it, you know, I don't personally like that, and I don't personally think that that's how I want to live or be, but I can do nothing about it because everyone else has decided that it's okay to have supercomputers that read your thoughts and control your very living, you know. So whilst I'm prepared to give everyone else their free choice to, even though I'm not being given the free choice, or anyone that would think like that. So that's probably my only criticism of it all. That's, you know, but anyway, time for me to go because I've been here too long, and I'm pretty sure that I have missed out on things that I meant to say, and have probably said some things that are wrong or that people don't like. I'm sorry if that's the case. It's my intention just for you to make up your own mind about things, to think about things. Laugh at me if you think it's wrong, that's okay. Well, you know, I don't really think it's okay, I have to admit that, but because, yes, I'm like everyone else, I think I'm right, you know. But still, each human being and the majority will definitely decide what is right or what they think is right. And they will then dictate how the rest of us have to live. And that's just the way it is. And like I say, I just think, personally, I think that it's unfortunate that we can't experience to the full extent both worlds or all the options to their fullest level, because while you don't know what it would really be like to be the highest level as a spiritual human being, in other words, a real human being, really, because as I say, human beings are really spiritual beings, you'll never know what you've missed out on, and you'll never know how limited we are now and how limited we are going to become. Because what you don't have and what you haven't experienced, you won't even miss. You won't even know what you've missed out on or what you've been deprived and denied. This is the tragedy of it, in a way, I think anyway. But most people are unaware that they're in a tragedy. I was unaware. In fact, I blamed it all my life only on my own personal limitations. I didn't think that the matrix was the problem. I thought I was just the problem. Now I realise that yes, we are the problem, but the matrix is also what makes us the problem, because the matrix makes us, and then we become the problem. You know, it's like that really, because the matrix controls everything. You know. Anyway, good night, and just things to think about anyway, you know. And like I say, you know, I don't really know what more to say, to be honest. Good night.